This guy on Twitter says, things like Starship Troopers, 40k, and now Helldivers really unsettle shitlibs because they show them how important the rule of cool is to the human mind, and how an ideology that essentially just says, yeah, you just have to tolerate all this disgusting shit for eternity or we'll kill you, will always lose out to the nicely dressed dudes with machine guns promising clean streets and polite neighbors. I don't have much to disagree with here. I would at some point like to explain or like to try and figure out why rule of cool makes sense, but for now it's enough to say it's in the name. It's cool. But I think I probably could explain it better than that. But yeah, I really want to use this as an opportunity to just get sort of chat's take on Helldivers if you've seen it. I've seen a bit of gameplay footage now, and I can sort of see the appeal, but it looks like kind of a pretty generic third-person shooter. The main difference being that there's friendly fire, it's very harsh, you can die quickly, and it's very sort of quick match-based combat. If those three things are all it takes to make a third-person shooter a massive hit, which is what Helldivers is now, then I'm surprised it hasn't been done before, but I'm glad for their success. I also hear Helldivers 1 was much worse than Helldivers 2. But yeah, Starship Troopers, 40k, and Helldivers. The aesthetic appeals to me a little bit, but not very much. I'm not a big fan of the sort of dark sci-fi setting, except the ones I write myself, because the Radiance campaign I did a couple of years ago was sort of dark sci-fi. What I do like about Helldivers, and this is a little self-serving, and I understand that it is just an aesthetic, but it's interesting to me that in a sort of dark fantasy, very machismo sci-fi, or not dark fantasy, dark sci-fi, very machismo sort of character design and like propaganda design and empire design, they regardless talk consistently about democracy and freedom, which I kind of like. These are things that I think are good, and I think probably will always be our systems, one way or the other, from now on. But it is interesting to see it, and because like in Starship Troopers, granted it's democracy, but it's a more elitist form of democracy, and 40k is a straight up theocratic dictatorship. So it's interesting to see Helldivers basically spouting the same ideological alignment as modern America, although of course in the US it's been sabotaged, but doesn't seem like it is in Helldivers. It's everything at once. Now, I haven't been able to figure out yet, because I haven't seen much footage of Helldivers, whether the whole democracy and freedom aesthetic they have going on there is genuine or a parody, or maybe in-game propaganda over the top of what is actually a dictatorial society. I'm not sure which it is yet, but I kind of like the aesthetic anyway. There's a general perception of a general association of democracy with like slow-moving, old, and useless empty suit bureaucrats. It doesn't have to be that. It's become that today. It hasn't always been that. But I think there's potential to make it into a grander aesthetic. So I kind of like this. Parody played straight and it's glorious. Works for me. Yeah, sounds good. Well, yeah, I'm glad they're having success. Like, Helldivers, I don't know if they're exactly indie, but they're not AAA. So as long as they're not AAA, I'm happy for it. Because the AAA games industry, far as I can tell right now, not only probably should go away, but probably is going away. Indie can completely replace it as far as I'm concerned, and it can do a much better job while it's at it. With the way technology is today, a small team today can do the work that would have required a huge team 15 years ago. And indie games have a tendency of producing actually innovative gameplay. Quadruple A. Sure, go on. And yeah, the more democratization of game development funding there is, with some exceptions and some edge cases, the happier I think I'll be about the state of the industry. The old models I don't think really work anymore. Similarly to news media, the 20th century models for news media don't really work anymore. Now, what they do is somewhat required, but can be replaced by much leaner organizations, I expect. And I think we're beginning to see that with O'Keefe Media Group as one example, where journalism can be its own thing, and you can then rely on other people to release it, and you can have a small, lean organization which gathers information that it needs to. Of course, the day-to-day grind of gathering just standard information and disseminating it is still a pretty big job, but news organizations today still seem to be far too bloated. And of course, the fact that they are far too powerful in today's society is also a problem. But yeah, anyway.